everybody, this is Matt O'Ree coming to you live from Godlike HQ here in North Jersey. For those of you who know who I am, you might know that I am also a New Jersey person, and I'm really excited to be here at Godlike. I love their products. Huge help with building pedal boards, and of course, what goes on the pedal board is pedals, and that's why we're here today. I, like other people, have gone down the massive rabbit hole of trying to get the Stevie Ray Vaughan tone many years ago. And I was on a quest to find the earliest TS808 Tube Screamer that I could find, knowing that that was probably the sound that I had fallen in love with. And I did find one, and I've owned it for many years, and it's one of my favorite Tube Screamers. It does have the Malaysian-chip in it, and I didn't know until recently, thanks to the fine folks here at Godlike, that that was a limited run chip. And funny enough, they thought the same thing about that chip, that it was one of the better sounding Tube Screamers. So I am here with my old 808, my 61 Stratocaster, and my Trainwreck Rocket, and we're going to compare it to a new pedal that they're doing here at Godlike in partnership with Mr. Tamura, and it's called the Tamura-MOD Tube Screamer. And I'm really curious to see how close it is to the old one. So let's take a listen to it. So that is just my Trainwreck Rocket by itself. Now let's engage the old Tube Screamer. And now the Tamura. So this particular Trainwreck amp that I brought, again, is called the Rocket. The Rocket was sort of a tip of the hat, I should say, to an AC30 that Kenny built. And it's very pedal friendly because it doesn't have a super wide open input gain stage. It works great with the Tube Screamer. Surprisingly, you know, that's not what Stevie Ray Vaughan used, but you can get that Stevie tone with this amp and a Tube Screamer. Tube Screamers seem to have an inherent thing that some people complain about. And I understand what they're saying, where you're kind of shaving off a bunch of the low end when a Tube Screamer is engaged. It also kind of shaves off some of the high end, which I love about this Rocket amp is that it has that fourth dimension clean tone. It almost sounds like an acoustic guitar. What I'm noticing with these two pedals is that the Tamura-MOD does less of those issues that people complain about. But I think any overdrive pedal is going to have an effect on your tone, of course. It's a trade-off, right? So, but it works really well with my amp. Obviously, that feedback you heard at the end of that clip, very responsive, just like my old one. It's really hard to tell the difference between the two pedals. It's all there, if not more so. I think it's less affecting to the high end and less affecting to the low end as well. But we could try it again, do another clip. I didn't really ramp up the volume knob on the guitar just yet, all the way to 10. So let's hear what happens. You know what, since I mentioned the clean tones of a Trainwreck, let's start with just the amp so you can hear what I'm talking about. Is it a bright sounding amp? Yeah, surely. It can be, depending on how you set up the amp. The high end of a Trainwreck is something I don't run away from. And with an older Marshall or even a 70s Marshall, can get harsh on the high end. That was one of the beautiful things about the AC30 is that the AC30 has that chime, that beautiful high end. And the Trainwreck has that, and I'm not just boasting on Trainwreck, but I am a Trainwreck guy. It's my favorite amp in the world. I love the way that the high end works with that chime that I don't want to run away from it. So let's hear it on its own here. So hopefully that comes across in the video, that you can hear a bit more of that high end, that beautiful sparkle that this amp has. So let's go back to doing the same thing. And I mentioned before, I want to really ramp up the volume on my guitar, since the Trainwreck is famous for that. And that's another thing that's so great about the Tube Screamer, is that it reacts the same way to me of my reaction to the volume on my guitar. When I roll back the volume, the pedal cleans up. The amp is notoriously famous for that. That was one thing that Kenny really just dialed it in to the nth degree. You don't need to hit a pedal. You roll it back on the volume of your guitar. But again, putting a Tube Screamer with a Rocket sounds incredible to my ears. So let's try that with the old one first. I have to laugh because if somebody blindfolded me, I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference. That's how it feels in the room. Hopefully it comes across that way in the video and through the compression of YouTube and everything else. But the way it reacts to my picking and playing feels exactly like my old one. And that seemed to be a hard thing. Why did I always gravitate towards my old Tube Screamer and not knowing that it was a Malaysian-chip? All right, for those of you like myself that aren't super into the parts, scene of how a pedal works, the way it feels, reacts, and sounds, and that tone, it's got more grind to it. I have an old TS9, and it does not sound like this at all. So finding something else that does sound like it certainly puts a smile on my face, and I hope that it puts a smile on your face too. Hey, once again, thanks for joining me this afternoon. Pleasure to be here at Godlike. Don't forget to check out their products at godlike.com. Feel free to come by and see me on my website, mattoreband.com. I hope that those clips translate the way that it feels in the room. And I know it's a hard thing to do without being here with me in the room. Very difficult, right? But I think that this pedal sounds unbelievable. Mr. T, hats off to you, my friend. I really hope to meet you someday and to be able to make a Tube Screamer that sounds like my old one, to me, is just a home run across the board. And I hope that that comes across in the video. So let's get back to the Tamura-MOD, a little bit clip here at the end for you to hear a little bit more.